pretty awesome. Have you guys ever seen it? It's called a book with binding. I don't know if y'all have any scrolls back at home with binding, but I got a book right here. It's a book. Now we've got iPhones, we've got laptops, we've got video camcorders, we've got iPads that make traveling from St. Louis to Michigan very pleasant. Thankfully for the 2-year-old. But we've got books. The way how we think of technology says a lot about where we're willing to go. Technology isn't just a new thing that we're always taking in, it's also an old thing that we're moving out with. The way how we interact with technology, how we use a book, the way how we interact with technology, how we sit in these chairs. Not everyone's always sat on wood or on those nicely cushioned chairs. The way how we get here. The way how we record an event. The way how we keep track of notes. It's technology. And the question that we're trying to ask, that we're asking one another, is how do we use all of these wonderful, amazing gifts? They're awesome. I don't know about y'all, but sitting down on these pews, if y'all have sat in a church that's got plastic chairs and folding, these are awesome pews. A good gospel-centered, oriented pew is a pew that allows you to sit, pay attention, but not develop a back problem. Those are good gospel-centered pews. A gospel-centered plumber is a plumber that can come to your house, do the plumbing, and the plumbing is a one-way street out. I call that gospel plumbing. If it's not gospel plumbing, we won't be calling it gospel plumbing. We'll be calling that plumber back at 2 a.m. when the plumbing is coming back up. That's a problem. We need a good gospel plumber to come keep that stuff going the right way. I'm glad some of you think it's funny. That's good. It's good. Some of us are still here. Gospel technology. How can we use the gifts around us that God has given us to do what He will do? We're going to transition into a time of question and answer, if we're good with that. Talking about how we can use our technology, how we can use the games that we've got, the cell phones that we've got, the books that we've got, the cars that we've got, the pews that we've got. How can we start to use some of God's technology for His world? What I'd like to do, just before we get into those areas of questions, is the rest of this packet is yours to keep. It's yours to keep. There's a lot of helpful information in here about video games, about movie sales, about what is technology, and about the current climate and culture that we're in and what is impacting that culture. So I would encourage you to take that home and read it. Use it as a resource, use it as a reference. That's the first thing. The other thing that you've got is you've got a business card. I know this is very old-fashioned maybe for some of us, but this is tag. I'm using tag, right? Back in the day, before we had Facebook, we had cards. So I want you to take this home, put this on your refrigerator, and then use it. When you've got a question about what does gospel technology look like, when you've got a question about a new video game that's coming out and you're wondering, how does this fit in line with the gospel? Is this something that folks that worship King Jesus should play or not? Is this a movie that we should be enjoying? Is this a way that we can use technology for evangelism? Is it possible that we could actually build relationships with unbelievers by having them over to our house and enjoying a baseball game? Absolutely. So take this business card. It's got all of my possible contact information on there. If there's not possible contact information on there, it's because it doesn't exist. So take that, use that by all means, plug it on your refrigerator, get a magnet. We've got like 100 of them at home, so she knows who to call when she's using her iPad, and whether there's a gospel-centered use of her iPad as the 2-year-old running around. All right? Take this and use this. All right? Because we are a gospel-centered resource for gospel-centered people asking gospel-centered questions. So all that being said, I'd love to open it up. I usually answer questions by giving stories, so we're going to give some stories back. But I would love to hear from some of you guys. What are some of your gospel-related questions about how we can reach out to people who aren't here in this room? How can we reach out and engage technology in a Christ-centered way?
Can we talk about not just reaching out, but how it impacts us as well.
Absolutely. Did you have a question with that?
Oh, I have a page, but I'll...
There we go. Go for one. Go for one. Let's start with one, and then we can go with more.
I don't want to embarrass my boys.
Oh, no worries. They're not embarrassed. They're already... Guys, what's your favorite game?
I have to say, I don't play much.
Okay. What's your favorite game?
Minecraft?
Minecraft is one of mine. It's a fantastic game. I also play a lot of League of Legends. That's one of the things that our esports organization actually is involved in heavily. Have you guys ever heard of StarCraft 2? It's another one that we play. Have you guys ever heard of Grand Theft Auto? That's one that we don't play. Okay? Good. That's good. That reaction is a very good thing. Okay? All right? It's okay to engage that video game. All right? It's fun. This is a safe space. There's nobody who can say, oh my goodness, somebody plays a video game. It's okay to play the video game. The question is, how are we using it for God's glory? All right? So that's fine. You play Minecraft, you've probably beaten the Ender Dragon. I can't even figure out how to find one. Okay? So I'm going to be coming to you with questions in a minute. All right, sister, did you have a question on it?
Is it appropriate to ask to what degree this should be part of our lives? And is there a point at which it occupies, is there a point at which it is a wasteful use of time that should be used in developing other gifts for the kingdom or service for the kingdom? And I know other things besides video games we can be occupied with, shopping or, other things, but I guess my question is, at one time the church sort of universally had a caution against gambling because it took up time and energy that rightly was owed to the family and to Christ. And so where is it just entertainment like watching a ball game, and where does it become something that steals away this time that we've been given? How do we sort that out?
So the first thing that I'd like to say is that we've done a horrible job with branding, and I'm totally willing to say that. So I got to send out one of our emails to a church that was in the deep, deep south, and I got a response back that said, brother, you do realize that people are going to think that you're coming to speak to them about how the gospel means they can go gamble. That is not the kind of gaming that we are talking about. So I'm absolutely sympathetic to that, and we hold to that.
No,
that
I'm
being,
not talking
that being
about
said,
gambling. I'm
right,
saying,
right.
is there a correlation? The same reasons the church used to caution against gambling.
There are.
Does that apply?
There are. Yep. So for the last 3 years, I've gotten to work off and on with a lot of the homeless that are in St. Louis. I've worked with the Recovery Center in basically a halfway home. It's in a Christian environment there called Sunshine Ministries, and it's been a fantastic experience for me to be able to interact with folks that are recovering from very serious drug addictions, from very serious other forms of addiction that are in life. That being said, we always get the question, where is it? And that's essentially what this boils down to. Where is it that this good thing becomes an ultimate thing? When is it that the heart, our hearts, this is not a problem with technology, this is a problem with us. When is it that our heart moves Christ out of his seat of power that he said he can never be moved from? And we've inserted Minecraft, or we've inserted NFL football, or we've inserted Candy Crush. I'm looking to see who's getting the references. That's what I'm looking for. When do we take the ultimate thing, the glory of our King, and when do we subvert it? Just a little bit, just a little bit. Because this really isn't an ultimate thing. Just a little bit. Let's just get close. When we're working with addicts and with addiction and with sin, the question is not how much time you spend on something. Sometimes that's an indicator. But the question is, when does this thing begin to interfere and hamper the rest of life? And that is a fantastic guideline for how we can live Christian lives that are always watching out for addiction. Because we can check our hearts and we can say, is this something that's now interfering with another part of my gospel-centered life? Is this something that is now taking precedence over another part of my gospel-centered life? Is this now a thing that I'm living for instead of Christ? Is this moving him from the throne and putting something else in that spot, even if it's just a little bit. That's where we start to say, okay, this is bordering on addiction and idolatry, and we've really got to work really hard to see what's primary in our lives and how we can get back to putting Christ on the throne where he always is and always will be. That's an excellent question, sister. Other questions? My little one's asking if she's allowed to run in the church.
I like movies a lot. What would be some ways that we could use movies, not just in the church, but in our, as families, as homes? What are some ways we could use that technology for gospel purposes?
Yeah. So about 3 weeks ago, we had 15 people over to our house, and we've got a 2-bedroom apartment that we're renting out. It's got a living room, it's got a dining room, so it's not like we're living in a shack somewhere. It's nice, it's fantastic, and I'm glad that the Lord has provided this space. One of the reasons why we moved into this space is that it's big enough for us to have 15 people over. So there's only my wife and my daughter and I. That's 3 of us. So that means we can have 12 other people over. All right, so if we're going to sit down together and we're going to watch the biggest esport event, the biggest video gaming event in the history of the world, which is what happened 3 weeks ago at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, which is where the Lakers play basketball. But 3 weeks ago, it was the biggest site for a video gaming event in history. What would it look like for all of us to get together and watch that event together, believers and unbelievers? And what happens when believers and unbelievers start sharing food, start sharing laughs, start sharing stories, start sharing even a movie, a television show, a sporting event? What happens is we start to build relationships. And it's through those relationships, brothers and sisters, opportunities get opened up left and right. Over the last 6 months, one of the great, glorious things that I've gotten to do as a missionary is have 60 different gospel conversations with 60 different individuals that have never heard about Christ before, rejected him, don't care. They're from all over the world: Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Florida, Ohio. I know there aren't many Christians in Columbus, but there are some. And there are some seekers, so you U of M fans, it's okay. Ohio, Pasadena, British Columbia. There are Christians in Canada as well. And there are people asking questions about Christianity in British Columbia. Toronto, France, Spain, Germany. We start opening the doors of our homes, inviting people over, saying, hey, we're going to watch this movie tonight. How about if we invite that guy over from the office that you get along with? I don't know, maybe he'll come, maybe he won't. Maybe if we watch a movie he likes, maybe he'll come. Maybe if it's a sporting event that, hey, I can talk to this mom about how both of our husbands love this sporting event. We don't really enjoy it. But maybe we can come over and the husbands can watch the game. We can chat and catch up. What does it look like for us to use the technology that's around us to open up our homes, to invite one another over, right? Jesus said, where am I going today? Zacchaeus, going to your house. Building a relationship with people. It's messy. It means that there's going to be food on the walls and food on the floor. And we're going to watch some movies that we don't really like or that are boring. And other people are going to watch movies that they don't really like or are boring. And we're going to have to ask questions about things that other people like. We'll have to get to know other people. It's a fantastic question, and it's really difficult. Not all of us have the gift of hospitality, so I'm by no means saying that everybody needs to get that gift. But rather what I'm saying, what does it look like to interact with one another? If you don't have the gift of hospitality, if you don't have the space, my wife and I for the last 2 years, we haven't had the space to have other people over. So what did we do? We went over to other people's houses. We were the ones that were enjoying a movie at someone else's house. There were unbelievers there. We got to talk to them about Jesus. Not because we had a written presentation on this is the Lord and Savior of the universe, and I need an answer from you now as to whether you're going to worship. Building relationship with folks. Realizing that life will happen. Tragedy will strike. And it's then when we can come alongside as Christians and we can say, we know a God that cares about you even in the midst of tragedy. We know a God that wants to rejoice with you when you get a promotion at work. We know a God that wants to weep with you when you have to put your baby in the ground. We know that God, we know him intimately. would you mind if I took a moment just to share a little bit about how he's impacted me in my life? Those conversations can happen by inviting somebody over to watch Batman. Those conversations can happen by inviting somebody over to come watch the Cardinals game. Those conversations can happen when you're playing Minecraft. I know it because I've done it. These conversations can happen. The question is, how are we using God's technology for God's purposes? Other questions? Sorry if I went there a little long. I know you got a list, sister. Bring them on.
Well, I'm just wondering about the narratives or the stories that are in so many games, and I am ignorant of most of them. But, that's true of all of life, that people believe they have an idea of what life's about and what stories they are basing their life on. And so I could see it as a point of discussion. But I guess as a parent, when you're raising kids and they're potentially exposed to hours and hours of a story of how the world is, and, there are what I consider some pagan references, and, do I need to take the time to play and learn all these games in order to have conversations about these things?
That's a really good question. It's really tough, right? We can't all become experts on Minecraft. We just can't. There's not enough time in the day, okay? So not all of us are called to stop at the same place as others, right? We're not all called to go to the same places. But we are called to go, and we are called to make stops along the way. So what does that look like? So it looks a little bit different for each and every one of us. That doesn't mean that we don't want to be educated at all right? It doesn't take more than 4 clicks. Click on your internet browser, okay? Type in whatever game it is that they're playing, and then scroll down. You don't even have to click. Scroll down, look at the top 10 links on Google, and scroll down. Look, hit Control F, and type in parent. That's all you got to do. Open your browser, type into Google the game that they're playing, and type in parent. And you are instantly going to come up with a review from a parent that has played one of those games. And that is going to be able to tell you as a parent, this is some content that you should be aware of. He's saying, don't write that one down. Right? That is a fantastic tool, right? To be able to use the internet and communicate with other parents that are having the same struggle you are. Right? So that's the first thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do, and then there's a third thing that I'm going to close with my answer to this question. The second thing you can do is remember this thing? We don't always have time to have a whole conference based around a game, right? We don't. Lord willing, we'll do a conference here in Michigan at some point next year. But we just don't have time to talk about all the games and all the narratives that are out there. We're a resource. We really are. The website is a resource. We're trying to equip brothers and sisters to be able to answer these questions about whether this game is appropriate, gospel appropriate, for what eyes is it appropriate, to answer those questions very, very quickly. All right? So that way it doesn't take 63 hours of gameplay to determine is this a good game or not for my child. All right? So that's the second thing. And the third thing that I'm going to do, you've already said it, Ty. I'm going to say, I would love for you to be able to pray about what it is even that your kids are enjoying recreationally, and even pray with them. And after you pray, then ask follow-up questions. What do you think about this game? What do you think about what Jesus would think about this game? Is this a game that you're playing too much? Are you playing it too little? Are you doing too much work on the side? Are you becoming a workaholic? Are you becoming a gaming aholic? Ask really tough questions, and they are tough questions. They're hard. But I would encourage you to be able to pray and then to ask those difficult questions. We have time for one more question. Pete's back there. He's sitting on one.
Well, I don't know if this is a question while forming the form of the question. So, can you talk a little bit earlier about an analogy to the internet?
Yeah.
And
share that?
just share it. Yeah, you just share that with us.
So the best analogy that I've ever heard on the internet, it's not my own, and that's great, right? We don't need to take credit for things that our King has gifted our brothers and sisters with. That's a great thing to actually be able to say that. I can take credit for what I've done, but this is awesome, and this is somebody else. The internet is like a lot of the streets here in Flint. It's like a lot of the streets back home in St. Louis. It's like a lot of those streets in East Lansing. some streets that some people must go on, but they are more dangerous than others. When you're learning to drive, you need to learn the rules of the road. You learn about traffic lights. A red light means stop. A yellow light means slow down. A green light means go. A stop sign means come to a complete stop, not a rolling stop. It's not a yield. It's a full stop. There are streets that you do go down. There are streets that you don't go down. There are highways that take you past some safe spots and some unsafe spots. As we're learning to drive, we learn the rules of the road, and we learn what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. We gain gospel wisdom about where we should drive. The internet is the same way. There are several places on the internet that you and I have no business being on. And those places, unfortunately, are very numerous. So for us to engage the internet, just the way how we engage driving, means that we need to be careful. We need to know the highways that we can stay on and that are safe. And what are those back alley streets that we need to stay very far away from? What are the rules that go with the road that we know how to live gospel-centered lives and get to our destination in a safe, gospel-centered way? The internet is a place where we can use it for tremendous missions, tremendous amounts of enjoyment, tremendous amount of rest that we can offer up to God as worship. And it's also a place where there can be a lot of sin in all of those exact same places. It's not always the darkest alleys even that are the dangerous, right? Sometimes it can be a game like Minecraft. I've counseled a guy out of Minecraft addiction. I've done that. It's really hard. It's just as hard counseling somebody out of Minecraft addiction as it is out of a drug addiction. Not because it's a drug, but because that's how broken we are. Right? So having really good gospel guidelines, knowing the rules of the road, knowing those dangerous spots, and having gospel-centered resources like us as we offer ourselves, like pastors that we can call up with good questions. And then guess what? Pastor Pete can post on Facebook, he can message me. Okay, that's why we're here. We're a body and we work together. And we work best when we're working together. Does that answer that at all?
That does. And something that just occurred to me as you were talking there that didn't earlier, but not did, is that if I'm driving down the road and I find myself in a bad spot that I shouldn't be in, that's not a time to sit around and look around and see what's going on there. What I need to do is I need to turn around and leave immediately.
You need to get out.
Get out quickly. And so too with the internet. There's times that if you're on the internet at all, you're going to end up at times in places that you didn't want to be. You're not going to try to get there, it's down.
Yep.
Something pops up, you didn't realize it was going to happen, boom, there you are.
Yep.
And then you're faced with, well, what am I going to do? The right answer is turn around and get out quick.
Joseph did one thing, right? When Potiphar's wife said, come sleep with me. He did one thing ultimately, right? We've heard a lot about how Jesus went, right? What did Joseph go? As far and as fast as he could. We know of two sprinters in the whole Bible, right? The apostle that beat the other apostle to get to the tomb, and Joseph. Those are at least our two sprinters. And I think Joseph was faster. When we find those dark alleyways, we shouldn't keep looking. We need to turn and get out. Thank you so much for that, Brother Pete. All right, let me close this with a word of prayer. We're going to stick around for a couple minutes if you've got extra questions. I would love to be here as a resource. Again, take this home, put it on your refrigerator, give me a call, let's chat, and then use this absolutely as a gospel resource, and use the website as a resource. This is why we're here. We're here to serve the church and serve the body. And if you guys aren't using us, what a resource that we're missing out on one another, and the encouragement that we can get as being a body in the Lord. Let's pray today. Our dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for your word and that we've gotten to come together and to hear what you've had to say to us. Lord, you have shown us the example that we are to go. We're to go as you did. You came down. You entered into our messy lives, this messy place. You lived the perfect life. You died the worst death that anyone could ever imagine, and you came back. And so, Lord, we look forward to the day when you come back, and we wait for that day with hope, with expectation, and with glorious imaginations, Lord, of what that day will be. But until then, would you equip us, Lord, even now, to leave this place, to go, to enter into this mission field, whether that's the internet, whether that's Minecraft, whether that's being a mom, whether that's being a son, whether that's being a husband, whether that's going to work tomorrow or the next day, or whether that's enjoying a hobby or a recreation, or even watching a baseball game tonight, Lord, would you equip us, teach us, strengthen us to go and to be in the places that you have shown us and gifted us to be in. We pray all this in King Jesus' powerful name. Amen.
Would you guys join me in thanking Jacob for spending time with us tonight?